What if I told you that almost everything you think you know about travel is completely wrong? That the advice your friends give you, the tips you read online, and even the strategies passed down through generations might actually be making your trips more expensive, more dangerous, and way less enjoyable. Stick around because today we're about to shatter some of the biggest travel myths that have been fooling people for decades, and trust me, some of these revelations are going to blow your mind. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where we dive deep into the world of travel, but not the sugar-coated Instagram version. Today we're getting real about the lies, myths, and misconceptions that have been circulating in the travel community for way too long. I've been traveling for over a decade, visiting more than 50 countries, and let me tell you, I've fallen for plenty of these myths myself. Some cost me money, others nearly got me into trouble, and a few just made me look like a complete tourist when I thought I was being clever. But here's the thing that really gets me fired up about this topic. These myths don't just exist in a vacuum. They shape how we plan our trips, how much we spend, where we feel safe going, and ultimately, they can rob us of incredible experiences. So today, we're going to tackle the 10 most persistent travel myths head-on, and I promise you'll walk away from this video as a smarter, more confident traveler. Let's start with probably the most expensive myth out there: booking flights at the last minute will get you the best deals. This one has been around forever, and I cannot tell you how many people still swear by it. The logic seems sound, right? Airlines have empty seats, they need to fill them, so they slash prices at the last minute. Wrong. Dead wrong. Airlines have sophisticated algorithms that actually do the opposite. As departure dates approach, prices typically increase because airlines know that people booking last minute are usually doing so out of necessity, not choice. Business travelers, emergency trips, people with limited flexibility. These passengers are willing to pay premium prices, so airlines capitalize on that. The real sweet spot for booking domestic flights is typically 6 to 8 weeks in advance, while international flights should be booked 2 to 3 months ahead. There are exceptions, of course, but the days of scoring amazing last-minute deals are largely over. Airlines would rather fly with empty seats than train customers to wait for rock-bottom prices. Now let's talk about safety, because this next myth could literally put you in danger. The myth that tourist areas are always the safest places to be. This one makes my blood boil because it creates a false sense of security that can lead to some really bad situations. Tourist areas are often prime hunting grounds for pickpockets, scammers, and criminals, specifically because they know visitors are carrying cash, cameras, and expensive electronics. These areas also tend to have inflated prices and pushy vendors who see tourists as walking dollar signs. Some of the most dangerous encounters I've had while traveling have been in heavily touristed areas where I let my guard down. The truth is that many local neighborhoods are actually much safer, friendlier, and more authentic than tourist zones. Residents have a vested interest in keeping their communities safe and welcoming. Obviously, you still need to do your research and use common sense, but don't assume that staying in tourist bubbles automatically keeps you safe. Here's another myth that drives me crazy because it's keeping people from incredible experiences: you need to speak the local language fluently to travel independently. This couldn't be further from the truth, and it's one of the biggest barriers preventing people from exploring the world. I've traveled to dozens of countries where I spoke maybe 10 words of the local language, and not only did I survive, but I had some of my most memorable experiences. People are incredibly resourceful and patient when they see you making an effort. Hand gestures, translation apps, pointing at menus, drawing pictures. Human beings are remarkably good at communicating across language barriers when there's goodwill on both sides. The key isn't fluency, it's attitude. Learn basic courtesy words like please, thank you, and excuse me. Download a translation app. Carry a small phrasebook or have key phrases saved on your phone. But most importantly, approach interactions with humility and humor. Some of my best travel stories come from hilarious miscommunications that led to unexpected adventures. Let's bust another financial myth that's costing travelers thousands of dollars every year. Travel insurance is a waste of money for healthy young people. This myth is particularly dangerous because it's based on the gambler's fallacy. The thinking goes that because you're young and healthy, nothing bad will happen to you while traveling. Travel insurance isn't just about medical emergencies, though those can bankrupt you in countries with expensive healthcare systems. It covers trip cancellations, lost luggage, flight delays, and dozens of other scenarios that have nothing to do with your age or health status. Natural disasters, political unrest, airline strikes, family emergencies at home. These things happen to everyone regardless of how many push-ups you can do. I learned this lesson the hard way when a volcanic eruption in Iceland grounded flights across Europe for a week. My travel insurance covered hotel extensions, meal costs, and eventually a rerouted flight home. Without it, that spontaneous adventure would have cost me thousands of dollars I didn't have. Now here's a myth that affects how people pack and what they think they need for successful travel. You need expensive gear to travel comfortably. This one is particularly prevalent in the outdoor and backpacking communities, where there's this assumption that you need top-of-the-line everything to have a good time. The truth is that some of my best travel experiences have involved the most basic gear imaginable. I've stayed in hostels with paper-thin walls, eaten street food from questionable-looking carts, and hiked in sneakers that probably should have been replaced years earlier. Comfort while traveling has much more to do with attitude and adaptability than it does with thread count or brand names. Obviously, there are certain situations where quality gear makes a real difference. If you're climbing mountains or diving with sharks, invest in proper equipment. But for most travel scenarios, focusing on experiences over equipment will serve you much better. That money you were going to spend on the perfect travel jacket could probably fund an extra week of adventures instead. Here's a myth that's particularly relevant in our social media age: popular destinations are always overcrowded and touristy. This one frustrates me because it's causing people to write off incredible places based on their Instagram reputation rather than actual experience. Yes, some famous destinations have crowding issues, especially during peak seasons. But timing and strategy can make all the difference. Paris in August might be a nightmare, but Paris in February can be magical. Machu Picchu at sunrise might be packed, but there are dozens of equally stunning Inca sites with hardly any visitors. The key is doing your homework. Research shoulder seasons, alternative routes, and lesser-known viewpoints. Some of the most famous places in the world have hidden corners and quiet moments if you know when and where to look. Don't let Instagram crowds scare you away from places that have been inspiring travelers for centuries. Let's talk about money, specifically the myth that traveling is always expensive and only for wealthy people. This one particularly bothers me because it creates artificial barriers that prevent so many people from exploring the world. The travel industry certainly benefits from perpetuating the idea that you need lots of disposable income to see the world, but it's simply not true. Travel can be expensive if you want it to be, but it can also be incredibly affordable with the right strategies. House sitting, work exchanges, budget airlines, local transportation, street food, hostels. There are ways to travel that cost less per day than staying home if you're willing to be flexible and creative. The real barrier isn't money, it's mindset. Instead of thinking about travel as a luxury purchase, think about it as a life priority. People find money for things they truly value, whether that's a daily coffee habit, streaming services, or eating out. Travel is about choices and priorities, not just income levels. Now here's a safety myth that I see perpetuated especially toward women travelers. Solo travel is inherently dangerous and should be avoided. This myth is not only wrong, but it's also incredibly limiting and often rooted in outdated gender stereotypes rather than actual risk assessment. Solo travel certainly requires additional planning and awareness, but it's not inherently more dangerous than other activities we do without thinking twice. In fact, solo travelers often develop better situational awareness and problem-solving skills precisely because they can't rely on companions for backup. The key to safe solo travel is preparation, not avoidance. Research your destinations, trust your instincts, stay connected with people at home, and have backup plans. But don't let fear keep you from some of the most rewarding travel experiences possible. Some of my most transformative trips have been solo adventures that pushed me out of my comfort zone. Here's our final myth, and it's one that affects how people approach entire trips. You need to see everything to have a successful vacation. This myth drives people to create impossibly packed itineraries that leave them exhausted, stressed, and ironically, with fewer meaningful memories than if they had slowed down. The best travel experiences often come from unexpected moments, spontaneous conversations, and having time to actually absorb where you are. Racing from monument to monument while checking items off a list isn't travel, it's just expensive sightseeing. Instead of trying to see everything, focus on connecting with places and people. Spend an extra day in that charming town you stumbled upon. Have a long conversation with a local who offers to show you their favorite restaurant. Take time to sit in parks and observe daily life. These moments of genuine connection and observation are what create lasting travel memories. So there you have it, 10 major travel myths that have been holding people back from better, cheaper, safer, and more fulfilling adventures. The common thread running through all of these myths is that they create artificial limitations based on fear, outdated information, or marketing messages rather than actual travel realities. The truth about travel is that it's more accessible, safer, and more rewarding than most people realize, but it does require abandoning preconceived notions and approaching each trip with an open mind and realistic expectations. What travel myths have you encountered that I didn't cover today? Drop them in the comments below because I'm always collecting material for future myth-busting videos. And if this video helped change your perspective on travel, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more honest travel content that cuts through the nonsense. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember that the best travel stories usually start with someone ignoring conventional wisdom. Happy travels, everyone.